Hello guys, welcome back to Listen to Voices YouTube channel. My name is Fakwadi Omotola, the YouTube lead, and as you all know, we have an amazing guest with us. Her name is Miss Adedeji Sarah. Please welcome her today.
You're welcome.
Miss Sarah, let's go back to the moment that started everything. How did you feel when you heard your name announced as the new Miss Lee City?
Okay, so I remember being seated in the hall, right, waiting for the session when they would call us. Because initially I thought that we are going to have like a full pageant show, right?
Okay.
So I was seated there rehearsing my song because what they said we are going to do was we're going to come up on stage and display a talent and all. So I was just sitting down there looking at my phone, rehearsing my song, okay, thinking of how I was going to stand on the stage in front of that
Yeah,
amount
yes.
of people, right? So I remember when they called my name, I was stunned. I think that's what I would say. I think it took me a whole day for me to realize that I actually got the crown. So it was at that point, oh, the current Miss Lee City is Adele Serafade came. I was like, okay, is that me? So yes, I was shocked. Yeah, it took me a while to really come into the reality of it. But yes, that's how I felt.
Were there a moment where you felt like, oh, you were preparing for a whole thing? Because, like you said, you thought that it was going to be like a whole full pageant show and all that. And since that didn't happen, what were your preparation like?
So we did like an interview, did an
Mm-hmm.
interview. So of course, one thing I knew when I was preparing for the interview was that I had to have full knowledge of what the role was because I knew that that's what they would
Okay.
quiz me on, so to say. So that was the first stage of preparation, just sitting down and asking myself, okay, why do you want to do this? You can have an idea of why you want to do something, but you need to be able to really put it into words. Then the next stage of preparation would be the talent, something I
Okay.
mentioned, because I thought we were going to have like a whole pageant show. So I was thinking of what song was I going to sing. I literally spoke to my friend and I was like, okay, what talent do you think I should display? I can't obviously dance because that would be very, very. So I was like, okay, let me just sing a song. And then I remember myself also trying to do a spoken word. I was
Okay.
just trying to consider all possible things for me to do. Third stage of preparation was what was I going to wear? Every stage of preparation wasn't easy, but one thing I know is that when you've set your mind to do something, no matter the obstacles and challenges you face, it would always seem worth it because of what you are going after.
Yeah.
Yes, and then of course the final preparation was on that day. I had to do my makeup, I had to do my gele, wear my outfit, and then yes, so that was how everything went.
I think the first thing you first said was like you preparing or knowing what you actually wanted to do.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you this question: what actually prompted you to become the Miss Lead City?
I actually wanted to go for this role when I was in 300 level,
Right.
but I was too shy. I remember sitting down in my room one day and I was just like basically talking to God, and I was like, God, what are we going to do about this thing? That was when I had the instruction to go for this position. And of course, it was very, very shocking because I was like, I did not see myself in this position. That's just the very truth. I believe the reason why I decided to go for this post is to effect the change I desire to see. And it sounds very vague. It sounds like, oh, that's something anybody would say, but it's
Yeah.
very, very important to me, right? It was more of like, okay, you're about to pass out, Sarah. What would be your thumbprint? What would be your
Your
legacy?
legacy. Yeah. How has God been helping you throughout this journey? Has there been any point where you felt tired?
To be honest with you,
Yes.
yes, I have felt very much tired, especially the first few months when excuse me, when I got crowned as Miss Lititi. At that point we had so many responsibilities. It was during the students week, so we were required to attend dinner upon dinners and dinners, and I was also preparing for my exams, right? And then also I also had responsibilities in church. So it was a whole lot, trust me. So if you're asking me what God's role has been in my life, he has been my sustainer. And that's the thing. Anytime you are doing something,
Yeah.
always ensure that it is God sending you there. So because I knew that it was God that sent me there, I would always take it back to him. Like, God, now you send me here. Like, what are we going to do about this?
Yeah. I think there was a time you hosted an event, the Pink Christmas.
Yes.
Was that like part of the agenda?
It was and it is. So, like I said, I have a conviction and a passion for just helping people as much as I can. And then I believe this school needs more positive influence. It doesn't mean that we don't have, but we
Yeah.
need more of it, and we need it to be visible for the incoming students to have good mentors to look up to and good examples. When you're coming here, you know that people have already laid foundations and they already set the standard
True,
for
true,
you.
true.
So it's more of like me do my little best to ensure that people coming in have somebody to look up to by the grace of God. My role in this school is to just be like, how would I put it? It sounds very vague, but like a trailblazer, just showing people that you are capable of doing so much more, but not in a, permit me to say, secular aspect, right? Because
Okay.
I feel like we have influences in this school, but we need people that would do things that are unheard of.
What is that misconception that people really have about pageants?
I think it's obvious because when people asked me rather, oh, how did you become Miss Lititi? And I was like, okay, it was a pageant show. The first thing they thought of, oh, were you like, they
Mm-hmm.
usually associate it to the physical appearance, right?
Okay.
I think that's the major misconception people have about pageant shows. Even me, right? When I was growing up and I heard about the whole Miss Universe, Miss Nigeria, blah blah blah, I thought it would just be a group of ladies that would come out and showcase their beauty, and then they will pick the most beautiful out of them. But then just for me to realize that you also have to showcase a talent, right? That's why the whole talent show thing is part of it, because it's not just about the physical appearance. People also want to know what your mind is about, what your soul is about, what your spirit
Yeah.
is about.
I want to ask you because right now, as you step into this role, there are a lot of responsibilities on you. So, how do you balance this with your academics?
Number one,
Yes.
God,
Okay.
right? Because again, he's the one that has called me to do this, and I believe he's the one that has the knowledge and the wisdom that I need to be able to do this. But another thing that I also do is to build systems that
Okay.
ensure that I'm disciplined and also consistent in other areas of my life. So building system, it doesn't have to be complex, it doesn't have to be complicated. It is just setting intentions to do things that you need to do for that day and following it through. So that's just what I do, having a routine, being disciplined, and yeah, showing up as much as I can every day.
So, the final question I have for you right now is that what advice do you have for somebody who is trying to be competent, who is trying to stand out?
I would say the number one thing that you need to do is to know yourself, because the major thing we struggle with as women, girls, even as men, is the fact that we don't have a sense of identity,
Yeah.
right? So what we do is that we pick up other people's identity, their personality.
Mm-hmm.
That is when we start doing things that we don't feel like we should do. But when you don't even have an idea of who you are, of course you are going to pick up other things.
Yeah.
So my advice for anybody that wants to truly feel competent and confidence in themselves is take time to study yourself, right? Don't allow people to define who you are. Many people that are going around are allowing people to define who they are. So
Exactly.
if you don't have a sense of knowing of yourself, trust me, if anybody comes to meet you and they're like, oh, you are this, you are going to believe them because you don't even know who you are. But then when you know that, oh, I am this, if they come and they tell you that you are contrary to that, you can say, no, I know that I am kind, for instance. If somebody comes and says you're selfish, you're like, no, I know I am kind. So if you want to be competent, number one thing is that you have to take time and study yourself. And then you might ask, how do you study yourself? Is basically just as simple as sitting down and asking yourself questions. Who am I? Many people don't even know who they are. We're just living in society, tossed to and fro by so many distractions. So it's very important to sit down, ask yourself, who am I? Why do I do the things I'm doing? For instance, I'm in law. Why are you in law? Why are you in sociology? Why are you studying psychology? And just asking yourself, what are your interests? Just quizzing yourself, basically. It's like an interview of what we're doing right now. So that is the foundation. You need to have a strong foundation in yourself. If not, you are not going to be able to go far. And even if you've gotten to point 10, if your foundation is not strong, you can easily crumble overnight. So I would say the number one thing is to have a strong sense of self.
That's very nice.
Thank you.
I've really, really enjoyed all your responses so far. Now we've come to the end of this interview, and I really want to appreciate you for coming, for taking part of your precious time to come here to grant us this honor. Thank you for watching. Ensure that you subscribe, turn on your notification bells, like, comment, and then see you next time in our video. Bye.